All right, guys, let's check out this Unit 7 test review. I'm going to talk you through some things I'm going to do on the calculator, but I'm not going to show it on this one as it's the reviews. So look back on the lessons if you need extra help on the calculator portion, please. All right, so solve by factoring. The very first thing we have to do before we solve with factoring is make sure it's set equal to 0. So I'm going to move this 8x squared with subtraction, and then I'm going to balance it, and I have a like term right here. So I'm going to be left over with 48x to the 4th minus 108x squared equal to 0. Okay, so now what I see here is I'm looking for a way to factor. Well, I see two terms that share at least common x's. So I know that I can take out two x's, and I'm just guessing I can take something else out as well. After looking through 48's factors, I'm finding that I can take out a 12 from both 48 and 108. So 48 divided by 12 is 4 with 2 x's left over, minus 108 divided by 12 is 9 with no x's left over. And I can continue to factor this. So 12x squared stays out here, but this is a difference of squares, which breaks down into 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. Still equal to 0. Remember, we're solving. And we know from the very beginning that there are 4 answers because my highest exponent is a 4. So I'm looking for 4 different x's. 2 of them are right here because my exponent here is 2. And then 1 is here and 1 is here. Now, if I set each equal to 0, I'll find all 4 of these answers. So if I set 12x squared equal to 0, I'll divide by 12, and I'll get x squared equals 0, and I'll take the square root, and I will get x equals 0 as one of my answers. Because the square root of 0 is still 0. And now here is where this is going to be a little bit different. 2 of these are my answers, okay? Because it was x squared. That tells us there are 2 answers there. The other way you could write this is x equals 0 multiplicity 2. All right, and then you wouldn't need to write it twice. So you got options. You can write it either way. And then let's find our other 2 answers. Well, I would set both of these equal to 0, so I would start by subtracting 3 and dividing by 2. So subtract 3, divide by 2. There's one answer. And here's the next answer. You're going to add 3 and divide by 2. So you'll have the same thing, just positive. So there are our 4 answers to this polynomial. All right, let's do the same with this. So first things first, we're going to bring everything to one side. So I'm going to start by adding 6x to the 4th to get rid of that, and subtracting 7x to the 3rd to get rid of that, and subtracting 15x to the 2nd. And then I'll just combine like terms here. So negative 2 plus 6 is 4x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd minus 42x squared equals 0. All right, so when I start to factor, the first thing I'm going to see is they all have at least 2 x's they can give, and the other factor that they'll all have is a factor of 2. Remember, I can't go above that number. So I can take out 2x squared. And I'm going to be left over with 2x squared plus x minus 21 equal to 0. All right. So we're going to go ahead and factor, but truthfully, you guys, right here, you're already going to know 2 of your answers. All right, so remember, because it's x squared, you're going to put all this equal to 0, and you're always going to get 0. If you ever just have one GCF on the outside, it's always going to divide and take the square root out to 0. You're going to divide 0 by 2 and get 0, and then take the square root and get 0. So 2 of our answers already is x equals 0. Now we just have to factor the rest of this. So if I look at this, I'm going to have to do my split the middle. So I want factors of 42 negative that are going to get me to 1. Well, I don't need to write out all of this. I know that I need to find numbers that only have a difference of 1. So 6 and 7 are going to work for me. So if I have a positive 7 and a negative 6, that will multiply to negative 42, but will also add to 1. So these are going to be the terms I'm going to replace. And then we can just split the middle and solve here. So I'm going to factor out a 2x and be left over with x minus 3. And I'm going to factor out a plus 7 and be left over with x minus 3. So 2x plus 7 as a factor and x minus 3 as a factor with that 2x squared from the beginning here. So here is where we're going to find our answers. We've already gotten my zeros from the 2x squared, so now we're going to go ahead and take our answer from here. If I set it equal to 0, I will first subtract 7 and divide by 2. All right, on the next factor, we'll set that equal to 0, and you will first add 3 and then divide by 1, so that's not going to change it. So here are all 4 solutions to this polynomial. Okay, so this one just says find all of them. It doesn't specifically say that we need to do so through factoring, which opens up the opportunity to use your calculator and take a couple of those zeros out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by moving everything to the left. So I've got 3x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd minus 12x to the 2nd minus 8x equal to 0. All right, so, you know, truthfully, the first answer we can do by hand because I can see all of these have an x. So if I take an x out, I'm left with 3x to the 3rd now plus 2x to the 2nd minus 12x minus 8 equal to 0. So that x that we're able to take out, just like I said from the last time, that's our GCF. That's always going to be 0 right here. So we can just already identify that I know my first solution is going to be 0. And then we're left over with this. All right, so what I want to do now is we've got 3 more answers to find. So I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to only put this into my calculator. And I see a couple places. I'm putting it into y equals 3x to the 3rd plus 2x squared minus 12x minus 8. And I see a couple places it crosses. So I'm just going to go find the first one. So I'm going to go second trace and then 2 for 0. And you're going to move to the left until you are left of your 0. And then you're going to pass it on the right and press enter again. And that's going to give you one of those. So the first one I come to is negative 2 in my calculator. And so what I can do is I can just divide that out. So negative 2 is going out in the synthetic division box. And I can put 3, 2, negative 12, and negative 8 here. And all we're going to do is say, well, if I take out that negative 2 that I know is an answer, what am I going to be left with so I can find the rest of my answers? So we drop the 3, multiply with the negative 2. Then we add. Then we're going to multiply with the negative 2 again. And then we're going to add and multiply to the negative 2 again. And good, we get a 0. We'll always get a 0 if we use this method. Okay? So really what we're left over with right now is 3, 1 power down, so 3x squared minus 4x minus 4. We could absolutely factor to solve here. There's no question about it, but you guys already have your calculator out, and there's already a whole number that we can take out again. Make it a little easier, unless you guys just love factoring. So I look at my graph again, and I'm going to find a second 0. And the second 0 I find is at positive 2. So I'm going to take this and do another synthetic division, but with positive 2. We just have one more answer left. So we're going to drop the 3, multiply with the 2 to get 6, add it with the -4 to get 2. 2 and 2 multiply to get 4, add up to get 0. Perfect. It was x squared, so guess what this is now? X, and a constant. So we can take this last bit, and essentially what we've done is taken out all of our answers until we're at a 2-step. And so that final 2-step here, we can solve to get -2 over 3. And honestly, you guys, in your calculator, could you have also pulled that answer too? Yes. If I ask specifically, though, to see some synthetic, which I didn't hear, but I like using that method, then I do need to see it. All right, so we're going to try the same thing here. And when you put this into your calculator, it's already set equal to 0, so you can go ahead and just start by doing that. You're only going to see 2 places that it crosses, although there are definitely 4 answers. And you know that from that 4 in the exponent, all right? So what that means is there are 2 real solutions that we can use, and then there are 2 imaginary solutions. So I'm going to use my calculator and go second trace, 0, left bound, right bound, and the first 0 that I found was -2. And I'm going to go ahead and just find the other one while I'm in there. Second trace again, left bound, right bound, and you're going to get 4. So now that I have these, I can divide both of these answers away in order to be left with something I can solve. So I've got 1x to the 4th, -2x to the 3rd, 41x to the 2nd, -98, and -392. And in the box, I'm going to put -2, the first answer I got. So we drop and multiply and add. Multiply and add. Multiply and add. And multiply, and it just so happens it works out really nice. All right, now I can just jump straight to dividing out that next number. You do just need to make sure you're keeping track of where your powers are. We started with a 4, we took 1 out, we now have a 3. So let's take another one out now. Let's take out that 4. So drop the first, multiply with the 4, and add. And multiply, and add. And multiply, and that's going to work out nicely as well. So now we have left over x squared plus 0x plus 49 equal to 0. This is absolutely something that we've been doing and something that we can solve now. So we're going to start by subtracting 49, and then now all we have to do is take the square root. So if I take the square root of both sides, it's always plus or minus, and it's the square root of -49 here, which hopefully you guys are realizing you know this. Square root of 49 is 7, and if there's a negative in there, it gets an I. So we actually get a positive 7i and a negative 7i. And all 4 solutions are here. All right, and then let's practice on what we did for our lesson today, and we're going to graph this as well. All right, so when I look at this, I can tell that my leading coefficient is positive because there's a positive number out here. And how I'm going to figure out the degree is I'm going to add up my exponents. So 2 plus 1 plus 1. This is a 4th degree, or even. And we'll be able to figure that out by graphing as well. All right, let's go ahead and figure out what our x-intercepts are. So I've got an x-intercept at 2. And that bounces. You see that's partnered with a multiplicity of 2 here. So we're going to put that with our multiplicity of 2. And we're going to see 2 of these going under multiplicities of 1, x equals positive 4, and x equals -5. So both of those should be categorized as multiplicity of 1. So they're going to cross, not bounce. All right, so x is 4 and -5. All right. So as I graph this, I know it's positive. I know it's going to be even. But even if I only knew it was positive, what that means is I know it's going to end both going up this direction. So at -5, that crosses through. So I would assume it's going to cross like this. At 4, it crosses. So on the way back up, it's going to cross. And at 2, it bounces. So what that means is, in order to be positive, right, we'll need to end going upwards. So it'll be something like this, crossing through. And we have no idea what it does down here. All we know is, after it crosses through here, it comes over and finds this 0 and bounces. Okay, that's as far as we know. And then it'll come up and cross through the next 0. So that is a gorgeous picture that I'm definitely going to sketch again. Some kind of a bounce here and a cross through here. All right, guys. Hopefully that made sense. And left and right M behavior are both going to be rising here. And make sure that you guys reach out and let us know if you have any questions.